Welcome back to 30 Days to Learn Photoshop. This is the course conclusion. My name is Ben Gribbin, and in today's lesson we are going to briefly recap what we've learned, and then we're going to look at sources of additional information and places we can find out more about how to use Photoshop. So let's just switch to Photoshop very briefly, and we're going to look at some of the skills and tools we've considered in the course. We've come to the end of our whirlwind tour of Photoshop, and we hope you've really enjoyed learning how to use Photoshop, and hopefully you're now at a level where you can take your skills to create some really awesome graphics, photos and designs. In this conclusion, we're just going to briefly recap what we've considered. So we walked through initially the interface of Photoshop. We discussed how we create documents by going to File, New, pressing OK. We considered how we can navigate around an image using a combination of the pan tools, the hand, the zoom, the space bar. We looked at the sidebar panels. We've also discussed how we can change the workspace of Photoshop to our liking, as well as deleting and moving around tools and side panels. We've discussed how to import and export files. We've looked at opening and saving. We also considered the principles behind layers and the layers palette, how those work, as well as shapes, tools, paths. We considered how the pen tool and selections work. We then ran through the basic Photoshop toolset, everything from the brush tool to the history tool and their main uses. And finally we looked at ways to adjust colours in our images, how to transform elements, solving problems that we might run into when we're using Photoshop for the first time, and also then we shared places to find shortcut cheat sheets and how to increase the performance of Photoshop. So we pretty much nailed Photoshop in one 30-day course. However, if you'd like to learn more, and you will need to learn more, and you'll want to learn more, then go ahead and follow these next two websites we're going to show you. Go to psd.tutsplus.com/sessions/Photoshop-basics, spelt with an X. And this is a session from PSD Tuts all about how to use Photoshop by a certified Adobe Design Master. So this lesson's got quite a lot of tutorials on how to achieve certain effects. It looks at concepts such as typography, the pen tool in more detail, how you retouch portraits, do you need to use sharpening, all kinds of different tutorials, and you'll find that really interesting. These are all video based tutorials, so check those out, have a look through them, see what you can learn, and just push your Photoshop knowledge using those. It's really an extension of this course. It would be your next level to a more intermediate level. psd.tutsplus.com/sessions/Photoshop-tutorials-for-beginners. Now this URL here has got a selection of different lessons that are kind of on certain effects and styles, as well as some other tools. It's a very handy lesson to reference. Again, it's a little bit more information than this course. It goes into a little bit more detail, so check those out. Those two sessions there from PSD Tuts are going to really help you extend your overall knowledge of Photoshop to a point where you are at an intermediate level. And then finally, the more and more you use Photoshop, the more you are going to need to use websites like Graphic River to be able to extend your Photoshop toolset. So on this website, there's an add-on category for Photoshop, and in here you will find actions, brushes, styles, shapes, and textures and patterns that you can actually download. You can purchase and download for use with Photoshop. Now these are really well priced, very, very cheap, less than $10 usually, and they give you some really awesome customization options for your next design pieces. And you can also find these free around the web, numerous websites. Just make sure that whatever you are getting is either a PAT file, an ABR file, or a CSH file, depending on the format you're after, because those are the three supported formats. Also, there's an action file, ATN file. So any of those four formats are going to work with Photoshop and will help you extend your toolset. We showed you some files that we purchased from this website using the grunge frames in the shapes lesson, so some really high quality, really effective files. So what have we covered in this lesson? Well, we've looked at places to find more information about Photoshop tutorials and where you can also find extensions. And your task for the lesson is to follow tutorials found on sites like the PSD Tuts that we showed you to expand your Photoshop skills. That's it for the 30 Days to Learn Photoshop course. I've been Ben Gribbin. Thanks for listening.